This podcast discusses a range of topics and is intended for mature audiences. Adult language may be heard throughout the episode. This podcast is for private, non-commercial use. The views and opinions of the cast, the guests, do not necessarily reflect any agency, organization, or company that they work for.
Welcome to the Link Up Podcast, episode 111 episodes, plus the special episodes. Go run it by, actually, since we're here. I play host, call me what you like. To my left, to my right, all men. It's a boys cast today. It's all men.
This is like the cast you hate the most.
Yeah, I want to have a woman present. Yeah, I like to have a
Speak for
voice.
yourself.
We're gonna get a bunch of hateful comments now.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to do it. I'll try to do some justice today. You know what I mean? Welcome back.
You're gonna be in touch with your feminine side.
I'm always in touch with the feminine side.
Wasn't my choice. I want to make that clear.
Nah. You're good. Welcome to the Link Up Podcast, episode 111. A lot of episodes. Go run back the old catalog. First of all, while we're here, shout out to Phil. Phil is blazing. Phil has done a remarkable job with some of his interviews that he's done recently. Shout out to Everything 345 as well for posting that content, those clips. I think one of the clips went up 20,000 views.
22,000 views.
Yeah, another one had another 10, 11,000 views. So definitely shout out to the people who are new to this space, the Link Up Podcast, SRP Smith Road Publishing. We appreciate you. So shout out to the first time listeners.
Dizzy's story is amazing. He did an interview with Dizzy, the West Bay rapper there who struggled with his crack addiction.
And, very open and very vocal too.
Yeah, some of that. Very real. Yeah.
It was an amazing story. So if you have not listened to that interview yet, please go on YouTube or your podcast, Apple or Spotify, and check it out.
Yeah.
World Talk.
Yeah, and Phil has more coming in to talk too. I think he's just trying to get clearance because people will come on and talk, and then it's like, wait a minute, I'm not sure I want to share that information. So, I mean that in a good way, right? Because I think we do need to hear these stories, and that's a part of the reason why we did this podcast to start. So he has carved out a little niche that I think is going to be incredible, and I hope that we can continue to share stories that are going to inspire and help people. One thing I didn't like about it, though, I felt bad for Disney in the sense that I was like, damn, he's going to get so much of a spotlight on him, and I don't want him to like.
He was
under the pressure.
I think he was embracing it. He was in the comment section thanking people for reaching out and showing support, because I think that thing had several hundred comments in there. People showing support and praising him for getting on the straight and narrow, being a productive member of society and fighting the addiction. Because the way he tells his story, man, it's pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like even those guys with the gangster video the other day with the guns and whatnot. Like Cayman has an underbelly, bro, and we have to have these honest conversations to have any type of movement. So yeah, just if you haven't seen it, go run it up. And we have tons of old episodes, even with Rashad, who's on his phone right now, who's
I'm messing
with you. So yeah, to my left, to my right, let me get into it. To my left, I have the one and only back from vacation. Had his photo up last week as the pod cover.
It was a little bit of clickbait because you had my photo up and then you put the caption on there, "I love you," made it look like I was about to make some confession.
It was us telling that we loved you.
That was I'm sure it was.
It was. That was the topic last week. We touched on a little mental health stuff and talking about guys reaching out to their guy friends and sharing. So that's what it was. We loved you. We missed you.
I love my bros. You tell your bros you love them?
For sure. Well, yeah.
No, you don't.
I got one or two.
Rashad, you tell your bros you love them?
No.
See, Rashad, he didn't listen to the pod last week because he would have had those answers.
Yeah, that's true.
You were just jet setting. Real quick, while we're here, shout out to Ferrari.
Why?
Because y'all didn't do nothing this week.
Oh,
y'all just and the Dolphins lost too, right?
Man.
All right, welcome back to the show. To my right, Rashad, welcome. Rashad has on the Miami Heat hoodie. I respect that. You know what I mean?
Shout out to the Heat.
Welcome to the pod. Passion, more passion.
No, I hear, man. I was just doing some research on the painting last week.
Oh yeah, we talked about that too with Betty's painting.
Are we going to talk about the trolling?
Yeah, let's get into that. But I want to get into the guests too real quick. Rashad, my condolences. I know you're not able to pick a ball right now, so I just want to. My heart goes out to you with the weather.
Sad this week. Been a sad week.
I know people are right there. They're probably like itching and shaking.
Oh no, some people were there when I drove past just now.
In the wet.
Well, remember the middle courts. Not going to get as wet either.
Yeah, so people there playing, you just need to get the courts.
So the courts need to have like a premium right now. Then
because they
spike up the price.
Remember, they got rid of the fabric roofing and they went to I forget. I don't know what it's made of, but it's hard.
Well, oh, you know so much about pickleball? You be out there?
Yeah. You wasn't knowing? You wasn't knowing. It's okay.
We know you don't go outside, so that's
why. You're
why.
the last two people that haven't played pickleball.
No, I play. I mess with it. I play with it.
I might be the last person
You the last one.
standing. Might be.
That's it, man.
So we heard the voice. I want to welcome the. I don't want to say because it hasn't fully transferred as yet, right? Not until the convention that you guys have, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to welcome.
I can explain that.
The future leader of the Progressive. I was going to say because I thought you were current, but I didn't realize because I was like I went to your website and I was like they need to update this photo.
So I want to let's do it. Let's say former minister for infrastructure and works,
Transport,
commerce, planning, and infrastructure,
all that stuff. Okay, he had a whole bag. Current, I would say, member of the opposition, deputy leader of the opposition.
Leader, yeah.
Rotarian.
Yeah.
Business owner.
Yeah.
What else? Footballer. A former footballer.
Not since I broke my ankle.
Not since you broke the ankle. I'm trying to give you all your flowers, man. That's why.
Which side you on?
Which side?
Premier
League. I'm not a huge Premier League fan.
You La Liga?
I'm a very La Liga. Real Madrid.
There you go. Shout out to my boy Ron.
I'm not like these guys that have like a bunch of shirts in the trunk of their car and they're defending it. You see guys watching the game and halfway through they come back in a different jersey.
We'll get him this time, guys. But welcome the Honorable Mr. Joey Hew to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for braving the heat, man, and joining us. I'm gonna say this: the first sitting politician on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't even think we have never had a former politician, have we?
We've had a couple starts and stops, but the actual make it to the chair and brave it with us. Yeah, you're the first.
You forgot husband, father, and chicken farmer.
That a politician. There you go. Gotta forget those very important titles: husband, father, and then chicken farmer. Yeah. Well, how does that come about? What was that interest?
Yeah, they're like my children too.
No, but I mean, how did you get into chicken farming?
That started at...
You saw the price of eggs?
Yeah, exactly. And do you know that I'm part Chinese? That started as a kid.
Yeah? Oh, from a long time. Okay, so not like a new hobby, nothing.
No.
Okay.
Started back during COVID. The kids went to the beach, picked up 2 little stranded chicks, and I decided then that that was a good time. I said, well, you know what, Dad, I used to be heavy into chickens. I used to be a breeder and all this sort of stuff. I said, well, we locked down for a couple of years here. Let's do this. So we ordered an incubator and called up some of my old friends in West Bay that I used to exchange chickens with. You still breeding? Yeah. Can I get some eggs? And there we go. Been going strong ever since.
How many chickens do you think you have currently?
How many do I have now? I have 16 babies and 6 mature hens and a rooster. There you go.
The rooster don't know what that.
6 hens and 1 rooster?
Yeah, he got a lot of them.
That's about the ratio.
But he is stressed right now.
This is what happens. You have all guys here now.
Yeah, there's a guy.
And I also have quails.
Quails? Okay, cool.
So I have, when I left home in the incubator were 4. I had 20 eggs in the incubator and 4 hatched so far.
Okay. Yo, you know what? While you're here talking about chicken, we talk about food in this podcast a lot. We got to thank your family for the service that they've done to the community.
Listen, you don't understand.
That food.
You don't understand.
Yeah, that's...
Office, bar, lounge, restaurant, and McDonald's.
Multifaceted.
Listen, I mean... shout out to the legend, Mr. Lenny Hew.
Yeah.
You know, I've had many nights doing karaoke with your old man.
Yeah, I can't keep up anymore. He goes up with his grandsons now.
I still can't believe he still moves so well for his. How old is he now?
Oh, you think I can say that?
I just remember going to his 80th birthday party.
Okay, yeah.
Well, you know, he played football every Saturday until we played on a Saturday on his 81st birthday.
Wow. Okay. He still moves so well. You would not guess it, man. I would.
And don't let him start singing.
I didn't even play football on my 31st.
You said you were done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Nah, so shout out to that institution, man. That's a staple in the community, man.
Listen, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate
I'll get a
that.
burger when we leave here, no? So yeah, welcome to the podcast, man. We wanted to just catch up with you a little bit. There's some changes going on. We know that the current election season is about to kick up, and we've already heard the rumblings. We've already seen the stories that are coming out. I guess I want to get an idea of your background. What got you involved with politics? I know this is your third term? Year 2013, I think.
Yeah. Next year will be 12 years.
Okay, so I guess let's go. What got you into it? I know.
Yeah. So we were chatting earlier about what my position is. So we, as you know, in our national council meeting, and I guess because we are a party, we have structure and rules and that sort of stuff. So at the council meeting a few weeks ago, the current leader, Honorable Roy McTaggart, announced that he would be stepping aside for the next election and would be nominating myself in January at our conference for the party leader of the party. In the upcoming sitting of the House, we'll be making a transition where he'll be handing over the leader of the opposition. So two different things. So after the next, God's willing, after the next sitting of the House, I'll be leader of the opposition. And in January at our conference, it is intended that I would be elected as leader of the party.
Okay. Wait, so is Roy planning to run in next
He
year's
will be
election?
running, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. So that is, we are 26, 27 years since the party was started. I'll be the fourth leader. Honorable D. Kurt Tibbetts handed over to Alden. He ran one more term, or did one more term with Alden. Alden handed over to Roy and did a term with Roy, and then Roy will be handing over to myself, and he's committed to doing another term. Okay. So you have that continuity when you have that structure. Yeah.
I think that's important. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah.
So I like you said, a long line of family businesses, a couple of businesses myself. Was always extremely involved in my community, from coaching football to Rotary, which is a huge passion of mine and one I'll get back to one day, and served in many different boards and committees, etc. Past president of Chamber of Commerce. In fact, with bad weather we've been having recently, it was a Wednesday night before Hurricane Ivan that they had the annual general meeting, the last event at the Hyatt Hotel.
Okay. The Hyatt Hotel.
And I got up to give my acceptance speech, and I said, "Welcome to my hurricane party."
Little did you
know that'd be the last.
I know, and then, little did I know until I couldn't believe on Sunday morning my cell phone rang after getting it charged, and I was hanging out in a friend's garage, literally sleeping there, and I was like, "What?" And phone's ringing, phone's working. First of all, I was excited, and then I saw the call and I answered. And you're needed as president of Chamber of Commerce at an emergency meeting. And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Completely forgot.
Right to work.
Completely forgot. So jumped right into it. Baptism by fire. But it was a fantastic experience. So yeah, we. That was the life I enjoyed prior to politics. 2012 was a very, very difficult year for the Cayman Islands. We had quite a few murders that year. There was a huge gang war going on. And I was sitting at a business dinner with my wife. We had just started our new company. And we were having dinner with prospective clients when I got a BBM.
Okay, dig yourself, yeah. Good old days, BBM days.
So for those, the BlackBerry Messenger, BlackBerry Message, I got a BBM, and it was like the 12th murder for the year so far. And I never forget the guy's name and everything about it, and it just changed me. And we went home, my wife and I talked about it. And because she had some rules when she married me, she said, "No children. We have a wonderful 16-year-old son now." Oh, she said, she said, "No politics." 12 years into politics, 11 years into politics, and she said, "Never run faster than her." Well, I can confirm that I've never ran faster than her. Okay. So, So yeah, we went home, we chatted about it, and she said, "You're going to get into politics, aren't you?" And I said, "No." I said,
lying to her. Look at him, man. Just nah,
No,
that was our rule, man. Our rule, remember?
I tell you,
Just going to show up to a couple meetings.
Well, I made.
I gotta listen to them. Hear what they saying.
Make some
first,
donations.
I took a different route first. I grew up between Shedden Road and Northwest Point.
Okay.
So I lived with my sister on Shedden Road until I was about 4 or 5 years old. My mother was working in Miami as a domestic, and then once I moved, she came home and they built our house in West Bay. I would always go back to my sister, so it was back and forth. But I called up, my friends in West Bay, the ones that I knew could have some influence with these young men. I said, "Hey, what can we do? Like, can we talk to them? We got guys, your cousins killing cousins, man.
Yeah.
What can we do? Can we speak to them? And these guys looked at me and they said, "Boy, Joe, these guys are a different breed, I said, this is not the level we're at. This is a different group now. This is something different. And so and I called a couple other people. A lot of people got behind me with that. We were trying to figure out, like, could we have events? Like, how do we, and then it dawned on me further and further that, we were having political turmoil at the same time. And I said, one of the issues is that there's no statesman or stateswoman that young people can look up to. Certainly not political. And we had just lost one of our religious leaders at the time as well. Pastor Al had passed away. And I just said, this is an issue. And I was hearing people saying things like, boy, I might as well steal because the politician's stealing, and all these kinds of negative things about the state of our politics in the country. And so, that's when I then started reaching out, and interestingly, I didn't start with the PPM.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah,
I was actually started out speaking with the group that ended up calling themselves C4C at the time. But then I didn't appreciate the structure, and I believed in organized politics from a very long time. I believe in organizations. I like to know who I'm working with and who's going to lead me and what are we planning to do. I don't like going into things blind. So that's how I ended up deciding to contest the elections.
So you went to the Progressives and spoke to them?
Yeah,
You had to sit down with the big dog?
Come on in, Joey. Come on.
The only demand I made that there was turtle meat.
That's a good callback.
We had a turtle meat lunch.
C4C was a group of, for I guess some of the younger listeners that I might not be aware, C4C was a group of, they called themselves independents at the time, Coalition for Cayman, and they were trying to get together and form a loose group.
4 or 5 members they had? That actually ran?
I couldn't even remember. I'm glad you remembered Coalition for Cayman. We called them Cash for Cayman so much I forgot about it. I forgot about the C4.
They ended up getting 1 or 2 candidates, and I think Austin Harris and Roy McTaggart at the time.
It was Roy McTaggart, Winston Connolly, and
in Austin.
No,
I think Austin was. No, they did not.
Sorry, my apologies.
And former Minister Tara Rivers.
Maybe.
And then they joined with us. Roy McTaggart actually joined the party. A couple of years later, Winston walked the floor and ran in opposition. And Tara served 2 terms with us. Yeah.
I guess that I bring it up to say, I think we might have seen, especially now in the last 2 years with the current situations and the changes and whatnot, that you need organized politics. I don't know if there's any way around it anymore.
You on board now? Is what you're saying?
I was always
You a liar!
Stop that.
Listen,
go ahead, let's get it out.
I was on an island.
Let's fight in front of the guests.
I was on an island. Where's my cat? This one? I was on an island by myself when we started this podcast.
That's a lie.
You hear me?
No, you weren't.
Go back and listen to like episodes between 5 and like 12. You will hear me by my.
Please don't go back and listen to 5 to 12.
It was literally me, and we had like a panel, like 8 people at that time. It was like 7 or 8 of us doing this show.
Okay.
And everybody was against me.
We still against you.
You have no idea the hill I had to die on.
Oh, I remember a little bit more now. Okay, I wanted to give the independents a chance. And they were saying, nah, it's red or blue, or it's whatever the teams are.
Yeah.
But I wanted to at least hear some of these independents out and give
The
them a
words
chance.
I used, which probably was I shouldn't have said it, but I said you give them 3 years,
Yeah.
they gonna is what I said.
You said a lot of things. You said they were gonna wet the bed. They were gonna mess it up. Yeah.
I said it's so hard to get people, especially when you have people that have big egos, together on the same page when they have all their own agendas and they're not conforming to a larger idea.
Yeah, but
it is so hard.
But even forget the big egos. If you put 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people in a room that created a manifesto for themselves, went out and campaigned on a manifesto, there's a lot of work involved in putting 12 manifestos together. Things generally in Cayman, there isn't a wide difference or major difference in the ideologies of those running, right? Most of us all want the same thing. We may have views on how we get there, but at the end of the day, most people enter into politics and most people, campaign on very similar issues. You may have divisions on environment. You may have divisions on the port. Little things like that.
We're gonna talk about the port too while you're here.
But when you think about it, it's not that huge. It's just the number of them. And if each person has like one or two things that they want to stick with. So 2017, we had a coalition with what was then called Cayman Democratic CDP,
McKeever's group. Yeah.
And they had a manifesto between the four of them. And so we came together, and when we looked, it was just 2 manifestos we had to work with. And we called ourselves a unity government at the time, and we just merged the 4 manifestos. And when you did the overlay, there was very, very little difference, 1 or 2 things. And those would have been things like, I want a high school in West Bay. That was specific to their manifesto sorts of things. So it was easy for us to create one document under the unity government. And what is important for that, what I think most would not appreciate is that the civil service then takes that document and creates the outcomes for that document. And that's what guides the civil service going forward for the term. So when the civil service come in and they can say, we have built a high school in West Bay, or we've signed a contract for a high school in West Bay, that is your manifesto outcome number 1.7 or whatever. And so that is the way the civil service would work. They take your manifesto and then they create their broad outcomes from your manifesto. And so everything that comes into Cabinet Caucus then would say this matches government's broad outcomes, blah, blah, blah. So it's a handbook. It's a handbook to the next 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not. The details aren't in there that it's binding that you have to build the high school on X road, but it's a handbook to say this is what we want to accomplish for the next 4 years, and you give it to the civil service and you say.
So you're saying that the PACT government at the time was struggling to create that holistically.
I think that would be a fair analysis. I think
I'm gonna shoot him some bail here because I feel as if, coming back to your original, I guess, example of the various independents, if they all 15, 19 coming together with the individual manifestos, it would be tough to kind of.
Well, some compromise is going to have to be made.
Oh, have to.
There you go.
Yeah, have to.
They then I think got into, okay, what is a majority? They got into the nitty gritty, like, does it have to be 100? We're going to vote on everything. I think that was one of the things I understood that they all agreed. And it sounds good, but it's very difficult to do. You can't. Yeah. It's like a politician. At every time something major comes up, he has to run or she has to run a poll.
I feel like that's a little. I see where you're going with that one.
Is that essentially what led to the coup of Premier Panton? Was that?
I think frustration that they were not achieving the goals that each individually wanted, and a lot of them, majority of them, still had their respective committees that were pounding on them, saying, "Listen, you need to do this and you need to do that." But I can't get it done because the others don't want to do it. And the division, we can see that the division wasn't necessarily the premier against the rest of the team. There were divisions within the team,
internal,
and he failed in bridging those gaps and bringing the team together to work towards a unified outcome. That's what he ultimately failed at. Remember now, a vote of no confidence is not against the premier. A vote of no confidence is against the government. But at the end of the day, the premier is the government.
Does your party have a political whip?
When we were in office, we had a whip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You familiar with a whip?
I watch House of
I
Cards.
was a whip. I was a whip for the first 4 years. Austin Harris was a whip.
I remember Austin had that job.
I think so. No,
Yeah,
you said that.
I
Yeah.
We
remember
actually
that.
sent. I had to learn on my
no
own.
idea.
We sent Austin to he did training on it.
A whip is someone that makes all the he does all like the legwork to get people on board. So if there's any disagreement on who's going to vote for what or yes or no, the whip's job is to create unity. So they have to make all the phone calls, do all the convincing, break all the arms, all the legs, make all the threats to get everyone on. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
So-
just joking.
I was
speaking
thinking
from House of Cards.
because I was thinking in terms of a group of independents. Do you have somebody who's going to go in there and get us in the room and say, "Hey, all right, now we need to cool out now,
They
Rashad."
probably had an informal one, but I
Yeah.
think there were people that tried to play that role.
Yeah.
And your whip also, like when you're down at Parliament, you get everybody together, make sure everybody's on time. If for some reason the government isn't going to sit in on Parliament, the whip would come out and speak to the opposition and say, "Listen, government is taking a break or whatever."
The luxury. Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I did. I acted as a whip for the first 4 years, and I can remember clearly the National Conservation Law. I remember on the eve of going to Parliament on that, I was running between Minister Panton at the time, who was bringing the law for the government.
Because he was a better part of PPM at the time.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a minister in the PPM government, and two ministers who were unhappy with certain aspects of it and were planning to either take a bathroom break when the vote came or not show up.
Is there any chance that those two ministers may have been some of the ministers that were part of this repeal that's happening now?
No.
Okay.
And it wasn't against the law.
Chris is so messy,
So we
yo.
passed, but we
asking
passed the
legitimate
National
questions.
Conservation Law. We passed it.
Yes, but
Yeah.
recently there's
Now they
been
wanna
some
be-
talks
Yeah, there's
of,
talks about
about some
certainly
repealing of elements of inside there to encourage more development.
But I can.
Well, I don't know because I haven't seen the changes yet.
Well, that's
what
the
I was
word.
told is that it was a matter of a good governance matter is what it's been. What I'm hearing. I think the gutting of it, the word gutting, if that is the case, then they've set themselves up for failure, I think. If it is what I am understanding it is, then there's some valid arguments towards a good governance side of the council, in particular to do with the council.
At what point do you get to see this?
As an opposition member,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they would file it. They should file it 21 days before Parliament. But that there's ways that wouldn't need to happen. I don't think if it comes actually it's an amendment, so it wouldn't be 21 days. It'd be less than that because it's not a bill. But what would normally happen is the premier would call us up. Something so contentious would call us up and have the technocrats run through it with us, so that we can ask questions of the technocrats to say, okay, why? So not often, I shouldn't say that actually.
Yeah.
Edit
point.
I'll say it. I was going to say not often is the minister who's bringing a bill able to speak to in depth to some of the questions we may have.
Fair.
Well,
That's fair. That's
but
fair.
that's
That's why you
fair.
have your
Like if there was like
Yeah.
an example of that would be if there's a major cybersecurity issue. That's
Right,
my field,
exactly.
right? And ministers are going to sit down there and tell you, well, these are the APT threats that are going to be taking place by
Yeah,
APT
exactly.
what?
So that
Exactly.
so that's normally when you have something of this magnitude, you'll have an opportunity if the minister or the premier or the minister who's bringing such a bill or amendments or changes to law bill would call us in give us an opportunity to discuss it with the technocrats and answer our questions.
So as far as you know, this is not anything that would be detrimental to the Conservation Act as it is now.
I haven't seen it.
As far as you know. As far as
I know, I haven't seen it.
Yes.
But you're also gonna have to, when you take the perspectives of different people, there's always someone that's going to say that it's detrimental. But as far as I know, it's not a gutting of the act itself.
Yeah, that probably did sound just like a headline that kind of went wild, using that particular word to grab the attention.
And maybe there was plans for gutting. Maybe there was, but from what I hear, what is coming is not a gutting. So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. I like that you mentioned during, I guess, there was a bill that was coming from your minister at the time, and then there were 2 or 3 other persons within the group who were not necessarily on board.
They were concerned about certain aspects.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note. I think once you get with the party, or if you support organized politics, that it's not a free-for-all of you're blindly following a leader.
No,
if that makes sense.
No.
Because I've heard those discussions before where they're full-blown arguments and back and forths. Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of misled sometimes when we look at independence is if we can just go do our own thing and it's going to be harmony, or I'm just going to go work with this person freely now, versus being, I don't want to say like in a cult or like a following, but just
it's certainly not a dictatorship, and it's not not a cult or a following. It is a fact that we sit together months in advance. We've started working on our manifesto already. We have broad outcomes, but the details we're starting to work on now.
Are those the ones that are listed on the website now?
No, unless there's something there with my few words that I said at the council meeting.
Because on the website you have points of under like housing.
I think those are just generally, are the things that we have been advocating for over the last few years, because we brought many motions, private member motions. In fact, the last several times we've been to Parliament, and 2 years ago, I think we went like twice, I don't know, to actual Parliament. But we've dominated.
A little bit of shade to the government.
Well, Parliament versus Finance Committee is two different things, but...
So just a quick side note, why is it that there's been so few I guess openings of Parliament?
Well, right along the line, I was going to say, because whenever they've had Parliament, the opposition have dominated with private member motions and that sort of stuff. So to answer your question more specifically, when you are failing to get a consensus on major policy decisions, you can't go down to Parliament
because nothing's going to get passed,
or your government could break up. So when you have a situation where, we risked it, we ran it. Let me tell you, civil unions. Let's talk about something.
Okay.
I remember that very well.
So we lost a founding member of our party. We gave, the Premier at the time gave other members a conscience vote.
That was Mr. Eden, right?
Yeah. We gave other members a conscience vote, which you can do because Cabinet, when you approve something, is collective responsibility. And did I say something to upset him?
I think he's going to the bathroom there. Collective responsibility for anyone who's listening is that there has to be a majority agreement amongst the members in Cabinet.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you go to Parliament, it is expected that the entire front bench, Cabinet members, so you have your front bench and your back bench. Front bench is your members of Cabinet, and then your back bench is generally those be your parliamentary secretaries, your non-members of the Cabinet. So backbench members of the government, supporting members of the government can bring private member motions themselves. But anything that comes as a government motion is supported by the front bench by what we call collective responsibility. Unless you are given the right for conscience vote, which means that you have applied to the Premier or appealed to the Premier that you in good conscience can't support this, and it has to be something as that goes against, and we think about religion and that sort of stuff. So you look at that, we went down to a one member majority for the last 9 months of
I remember it being very controversial for quite a while.
We lost Alva Saku and we lost Mr. Tuning.
Yeah, I remember.
And then we had a couple of members vote against it, so we lost the vote, which was even more.
And that was when the governor had to execute.
And the governor executed
Section 81 or whatever.
The last section of the Constitution. Which, incidentally, we had negotiated. We had done the negotiations on the constitutional
the referendum.
No, well, we went to the UK and we went myself, Sir Alden, Alva Saku from the opposition, and I think it was Mr. Miller from the opposition, if I'm not mistaken. But
okay.
I think so. We all went to the UK to negotiate four things.
Mm-hmm.
4 changes to the Constitution. One was to change from legislative assembly to parliament, so to give parliament that bit of autonomy from.
I do miss saying LA. I ain't gonna lie.
I still say from time to time.
Going to the LA. I do miss saying that. But I love Parliament. The name Parliament. It looks nice in the building too.
So we negotiated that. We negotiated that if the section under the UK passing legislation for us in the UK Parliament, we added that they had to have extensive consult with us before doing so, which we didn't have before. We also negotiated to remove Section 81.
That didn't happen.
That ain't gonna happen.
Well, and the fourth one was, I'm trying to remember what there was 4. I think it was to add one more member to cabinet. I think was what it was.
So the second point there, that consultation.
We changed the constitution that the governor would no longer sit as the chair of cabinet, but could attend on his or hers leisure. This government and the previous premier, from what I understand, have continued to allow the governor to be chair of cabinet. But we were successful in that. And so the UK responded that we were successful in all 4 applications after, I think it took us 2 days of negotiations, which was probably one of the coolest things I did. And the Wi-Fi said Churchill's War Room. We were sitting somewhere above it, I guess.
Okay.
So I screenshot the picture of the Wi-Fi saying Churchill's War Room.
That's a big piece of history.
Yeah, that's a history one. I want to ask you, I guess, since you're here and you had your term as minister, what are some, some of the most memorable things that you were able to accomplish and get through?
Yeah. But let me I'll do that. I was just wrapping up on the Section 81.
Right.
When we failed on the civil unions, same-sex marriage civil unions bill, the UK rescinded and said, nope, you have not displayed.
No, you can handle it.
Maturity.
Yeah.
So question now.
We fudged it.
Yeah, a question about that. When that happened, I remember Sir Alden giving clear warning that, look, if
he said that,
if you don't do this,
we might end up with
we're gonna be told what to do.
Yeah, he did say that.
And it's gonna be embarrassing.
And we fought then. He fought hard. He negotiated hard for the outcome to be civil unions and not outright marriage, which would have caused quite a stir here. It caused a stir anyhow with civil unions.
Right, I remember.
That was more palatable once explained.
Because there was this whole argument definition of marriage and
between a man and a woman,
right?
So that would have caused all sorts of other issues. But to your question about memorable things, I guess the negotiating the changes in the Constitution was quite an interesting one. Going to a lot of the meetings, attending the joint ministerial council meetings in the UK, and you know, just the magnitude and some of the buildings you went into, you know, the history behind it and that sort of stuff. But there were a lot of other things I really wanted to achieve, but COVID, I guess, ended up being.
Oh, hold on. Let me cut you. One of the things that Chris really enjoyed that you did was the little bus.
I have it written down. I'm about to ask. I was like,
I remember it so much because when the new government got in, they cut it right away.
So let me say, like, for people that may not remember, former Minister Hew at the time,
too, right? But it brought him so much joy.
That he created a program which, because a lot of senior citizens benefited from this.
True.
Right? And my dad's a senior citizen, not that he needs it specifically, but I just have a soft spot for senior citizens.
I do.
Right? They are literally the reason why we do what we do now. That sounds cliche and stuff like that.
He's trying to get on the wheels, man. He's not slick.
But it's the truth. Like, you know, my dad's a seafarer, and I have the utmost respect for all of them. Anyway, so there was a system that was created for free bus transportation within like 20 something spots in Georgetown, which expanded to West Bay Road at its before it was killed. And they had these designated spots on the sidewalk that would show you, you know, this is where you go in. And they had an app that would show where the buses were, and they would run throughout the day, and you could get on and get off as you please at any stop. So your stops were from the airport. I could think close to the airport, supermarket, to different parts in town, to West Bay Road,
Kirk supermarket.
Yeah.
The hospital, the pharmacy at the hospital.
A lot of old people use it to go get their prescription, right? And so then
you just credit union, all of those
the
places,
major hubs, the major places,
Those are all the stops that a lot of elderly people take because they still do physical transactions.
I caught it a couple of times, so it was also to reduce traffic, you know, moving around the cars.
So what it was we went on a road trip to talk about traffic and public transport and stuff, and the older people in particular said, listen, I love, and we heard from others saying that, you know, it's hard to, you know, without a car. You know, I don't like to drive anymore. And then I love taking the bus into town because I meet all these people and I talk to them in the buses, and I have my favorite bus driver and all that. The problem is when I get to town and it's 92 degrees, feeling like 104, by the time I leave credit union and go to walk to CMB, or walk from CMB to go to NAU or to Digicel to sort my phone, or to Flow to sort my phone, I'm done. And I don't get half of my work done. I don't get half my business done when I'm in town. And so, you know, that was something that stuck out. But the other thing was, there were two other things. One was we had a bunch of buses sitting around because of COVID, and there was no tourists. So, you know, this was assisting some of those that had buses sitting around and making a bit of money during the time that we had no tourists. And then it was part of our trial because the idea that we had at the time was we identified a property in Frank Sound by the fire station. We identified property in Bodden Town by the police station. We identified a property in Prospect by the Seafa Field, where we could actually look at doing a express bus service.
Yeah. Like a park and ride where we just go and pull up there.
Park and ride, and that was the important thing, right? We looked at it and we said, listen, it has to be comfortable. It has to be reliable and safe. So in all of these places, it was next to a fire station, next to a police station. We could put up lights. We could put in a little shelter. We could have got those, you know, those container offices, you know, and put a little split unit AC in it, put cameras on it. And people could actually ride their bicycle, drive their car, ride their moped, whatever, park there, take this bus. You know, if it leaves Frank Sound, it stops in Prospect, and stop Bodden Town, stop Prospect, and then comes into town. And then when you come into town, you jump on the hop on, hop off. So you're good. Same thing from West Bay. We had, you know, looked at by Governor's Square. We looked by West Bay Fire Station. The same thing. You could, once you get to those points, then you can jump on this bus that goes straight into town.
So you had a real plan moving forward with that.
We had that was a real plan moving forward. We had identified a couple of little, you know, I do. I'm nostalgic as well when I look at the little bus they have down at Cayman Bay. And I look at that thing running around, taking, people back and forth from the parking lots. And
to Foster's.
That's what we were, to Foster's, that's what we were going to do in town. Was get one of these, they got the little electric buses and have them run the routes. I think it's still going to have to be done. And it was a major part of Georgetown revitalization, because as we close roads, right, two things that were missing is the park and go, which should include multi-story parking lots eventually.
We're going to get back to all of them.
And then the hop on, the hop off and hop on buses, because if you're going to close roads, where are people going to park?
Absolutely.
So,
right? And where are they going to, how do you get to a pedestrian area when you have to park? Like I said, quarter mile away in 104-degree weather.
No, I was going to ask, if that happens, what happens to the public bus? The
omnibuses?
Yeah.
The omnibuses would run within their districts. And they're free to run, let's say Prospect to Georgetown. You're free to still run that.
Yeah.
Right? But what we want to do is develop business for them using an app as well. So if you live in the bottom of Newlands, right, you put an app on the buses that it's almost like an Uber. That they don't have to go down in every road in Newlands, but if someone that needs a omnibus
can go down and get,
can bing, and then the omnibus driver near enough to say got you, and pick them up, and it's a bus fare.
Because
right?
that's the other thing we have
South
too.
Sound is still wide open.
Frank Sound as well too. The buses still weren't going down the road. They were still dropping people at the top of the road and running back to the library to get more customers.
Yeah, we need to have a serious talk about the public bus drivers, man.
Well,
that's the thing, and you can go back to one time.
Can we get them to stop at the actual bus stop for one, and then wait until the person is actually off the bus before you try to get back in on the line.
That's the thing. My pet peeve also is, and it's serious because someone's going to get hurt. Please stop when you pass the pedestrian crossing, not in front of the pedestrian crossing. Because the car coming behind you can't see that passenger that got out of, or any other person that was planning to pass. You can't see the sign flashing, and you can't see the individual.
Right. Yeah.
So they should roll ahead, get past the pedestrian crossing before letting out their passengers. But there was a time when, right now, if you're a taxi driver, you have to be Caymanian. If you own a tour bus company, you have to be Caymanian, tour bus operator. And if you own the bus, you're supposed to be Caymanian. But there was a time where the drivers had to be Caymanian as well.
Two things. The first one was, did you have conversations with Kenneth when he decided to kill this?
Yo, Chris more the tea in him, man. Look at Chris, man.
It's a real
we were public. We were
saucy
public.
Chris.
We were public about our disappointment. Yes, very public. We didn't know it was going to be killed. So when we found out it was killed, I
just didn't like his logic into why he killed it. I think it was too popular for him to keep it to say that.
It didn't have to use those big buses. Like I said, we had identified in the ministry. We'd already identified little electric buses, which you see government administration building is using now just to take people
to the parking lot
back and forth, right? So that and the bicycles are a little difficult when it's so hot, but that hop on, the amount of civil servants that use that hop on hop off service to go to lunch and go to Foster's and grab stuff and come back and stuff. I know people that drove to the courthouse. I know people that drove to work. But after work or during lunch would take the hop on, hop off to Foster's to do their shopping, come back, and then get in their car and drive home just to avoid that whole, and go in and find parking and stuff.
So, my other question was, what was the topic now? Hop on, hop off.
We did a no car day too.
Yeah, Chris questions a little deep.
little T-ish one, the shade room.
Oh no,
shade room, Chris.
Oh no, this one wasn't really shade room. It was.
So tell me about the time.
No, Chris, you think about it. I just want to ask.
Okay, you go ahead.
Is there like any, let's say, regulations for the public bus? Because if you jump on the public bus in town, you stop in like 10, 15 times before you even reach the Crew Road.
No, they're supposed to stay on their route. That's about it. One of the issues with the public buses too is that the public transport, it's just what we call it's like a department. It's not an authority, and it doesn't have its own law. The public transport law falls in the traffic law, and so that creates all sorts of issues for enforcement and stuff. They should be able. The guys should be. They're all former policemen. They should be able to write tickets. They should investigate if there's an accident. they should investigate, and a public transport unit is involved, the police should call the public transport investigators as well. Should be completely separate in that sense, where the investigation is based on public transport as well as the regular traffic laws.
Rashad reminded me of my question now. There was some, I guess, hesitation at the time from Minister Jay about why. Well, is this not why we are here?
Shade room, Chris. He wouldn't even say a minister.
Yeah.
Well, because if once
we talking to Joey Hew, but I'll just mess with you.
But once I ask the question, it's obvious of who's it going to be about.
Not to me.
Right?
I just found out.
Well, that
get your tea off. Go
reason
ahead.
why there was no actual policy around the public transport system. There was delays around it. Is it? For me, it just sounds like he doesn't want to piss off the bus drivers. It sounds like, I don't know if that was the position you had, because I know it's difficult because the consensus was these guys are paid per person and trip, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're rushing back. So if we just had them on a flat fee and a flat salary, there's no incentive to be doing things improperly.
Well, you would have to create an authority and all sorts of stuff to do that.
They can't even raise their rates. Remember, they wanted to raise the prices, and that was a big thing too.
Yeah,
it's
they
still
want-
$2 to go to town, like to.
From where? No.
No,
I think
within town, like it was
within
$2-3.
town, yeah, but it
yeah.
went up from like Bordentown, East End.
But it hasn't
outside those
changed in
places.
like a long period of time. I don't know.
So to answer your question, and I mean, I think Minister Ebanks just received that subject about a year ago.
Right.
So it was under Ministry of Tourism.
I remember.
That's correct. That's correct.
Moved to Minister Ebanks. So they hired consultants, brought in consultants who have supposedly worked with the ministry to develop a public transport policy plan. So we're waiting. Apparently, it's just.
Oh yes, I've heard that, because the idea is to merge public transport. I think maybe NRA, public work. It's like they want to licensing and whatnot and bring them together.
They all fall under, but
that's just for that reunion. But I'm talking about specifically when it comes down to public transport. Do you think that it will ever happen where the bus drivers would ever be on a flat salary, so that we could actually?
That'd be a huge change.
And is it just so, like, from a political standpoint, you really wouldn't want to touch it because they would really be upset by that, well, unless they were getting sufficient salary?
I think if you are doing it properly, there's ways to. Remember now, like I said, if you go back to where the bus drivers are Caymanians, right, where it's not, hundreds of work permits or side deals where, someone's renting a bus from the actual license holder. And then on top of that, give them the tools to operate better. Like I said, I talked about using technology where, in Newlands, Frank Sound, all these South Sound places, people can actually hit and say, I need a pickup, right? And then the nearest bus can say, I'm 2 minutes away on my way, comes off the screen, just like Uber, right? You're just not paying for it, right? But now this person knows that when they're driving down in Newlands, there's somebody at, such and such in Rackley Canal or whatever, and they go and pick them up. Right, and then anybody else along that route that sees the bus can click on it and say, pick me up too.
But wouldn't that cause delays in the timing as well, though? Because the buses are supposed to be somewhat every 30 minutes you should see a bus, right?
Well, that's the idea. So So if they're running the straight route, you can do it. That let's say they all hub out of the park and ride area, right? Then you have a basic route you run. It takes X amount of time, and then all the little side. Because if you try to run all the side roads,
no, you can't. Because the reason I say this is because it may not be appealing to someone that has to make it to work at a certain hour, right? They should be able to depend that if I step out my house at 8:29, that bus should be here around 8:30. within with plus or minus 5 minutes,
But
right?
with the technology, they can see where
audacity.
they-
Yeah, you got to pay
The
extra for that.
audacity. I know you do the extreme example.
I'm
but
just
Yeah.
saying, right? So, but what I'm saying is like certain people will not feel encouraged to take the bus if they know they can't make it to work at a
Listen,
certain
when
hour.
you-
but they
you're
gotta have some.
traveling-
They gotta have some
when you-
buffering though. Come
No,
on,
but
they gotta
when
have
They
some.
will
traveling,
have a
if you-
little bit of buffering, but it can't be 20 minutes.
No, I think it's relatively easy to work like using an app, like what
That's
Joey
what I'm
said.
saying.
Relatively, like
Yeah.
if you wake up, you check the app at 7, you see a bus moving along, but spot straight, and you live Prospect, you can easily make your way to the top of the road to catch the bus by the time it get there. So I
Yeah.
think an app
So
would
I do
definitely be
to
beneficial
answer.
for
Yeah,
that.
like when you travel, if you are not in like the heart of a city or whatever, you will check with your Uber. You'll see let's see how many Ubers and how long is the Uber going to be. Well, Uber's
to have
going to
some
be
kind of
15
plan,
minutes
yeah.
away.
Yeah.
So you plan based on the fact that it's going to take 15 minutes for the Uber to get there, or 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or where they have that next drink. Whatever the case is, you know how much time you have before the Uber arrives, right? So
See, Chris has a chauffeur, so he doesn't live on. He don't live like regular people. Actually, when we leave here today,
Is he
the
a
guy will be
minister, what?
downstairs. Yeah, he has a Tahoe.
You got Tahoe?
He got a Honda Tahoe.
Honda
As soon
Tahoe,
as,
yeah.
as soon as I see a bid for that on Bonfire, I go put it in.
So that's a more fire. I want to talk about the port, and I want to talk about the progressives in the future. So I know you got some more stuff there.
I have topics on the port. I'm happy to.
I have
happy to
one
dive
thing
into
about
it.
the progressive future when we get there.
All right, what do you want to do first? Let me give
what
Joey
about? Because I didn't finish the things you asked me about. One of the other things.
Oh, sorry, the things that you
Really,
yes,
really
okay.
proud of.
Give me at least 2 more then. What are you really proud? Because
uh,
I have a follow up question after that.
One of the things I was really proud of was the Center for Business Development.
Okay, yeah.
And,
Shout out to Thais and them. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Victor knows our border boy.
I think a lot more can be done there. But I'm certainly happy with, I do get from time to time persons coming to me saying thank you so much because, did it, now my business is here and there, whatever. But the ultimate goal of that, when we opened it, we got hit with COVID, so we quickly repositioned it to be able to help small businesses, and that's where we ran the grants and stuff for small businesses through that. And then after that, we became an accelerator first.
I saw that, yeah. Helping small
and
businesses
then,
get up.
and then evolve into an incubator. But ultimately, you want to get to the point where you are assisting small businesses and even medium size if they've been in the program long enough with financing. Whether it's government guaranteed financing through the Class A banks or through Cayman's Development Bank. But if someone has done their time through that process, they've gone into the incubator, they've graduated, they've done their homework, they're now in the accelerator. At some point, the government must feel confident that these folks are on the right track. And our research showed us that even the Class A banks understand the whole concept. And whereas it's the entrepreneur coming in saying, I'm going to work really hard, please take a chance in me, they're now coming in saying, hey, listen, I had accountants, HR people, I had economists, I had all these people helping me. And over the last 2 years, I went from here to here. Now they're saying to me, I need your financing to get to there. But I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to work with them after I get the financing. And the Class A banks understand that. And then there's opportunities. Some of the things we discovered were how many of our entrepreneurs have products that they would be able to push overseas, to be successful overseas. And we did a bit of research there, and we had contact with the UK Treasury Department and the offices that they have around the world and how we could use them. Little things like in China, there's a UK Treasury office that if you want to go to China and do business, you would have been able to contact them and get a little desk in there, and they would assist you with, who do you go to and that sort of stuff. And that's the real... That was the main what I wanted the main focus of that. Ultimately, the focus of the Center for Business Development is to take from concept right through to maximizing even globally.
Fair enough. Since you mentioned the Business Development Center, they actually had their Small Business Expo on October 3rd, 9 a.m. at Hotel Indigo. So if you're interested in finding out more, I know Thais and all those good people over there have been doing a lot of good work. They have tons of vendors and booths.
And that was a success
support
story
it for sure.
with Thais
October
as well.
3rd, yeah.
was a good example of where we headhunted someone with experience.
Yeah, she was at DCI, right? Or one of them sports
No,
and
we
stuff?
brought who?
Oh, sorry, talking about
No,
Thais.
we brought
Oh,
the lady in from the Jam Pro in Jamaica.
Okay.
And then we identified Thais as the person that would train under her for a couple of years and then eventually take over that spot. And that has happened now, I understand. I think
Okay.
Thais is moving into the...
Look at Reg 6 doing work.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So... Yeah, no, so there's a lot of other things, but those things. And the time, the work we did during COVID is something I'll never, ever forget.
Yeah.
You know?
The reason why I asked the positives, because I want to get into some of the negatives as well. I think like in 2009 or 2010, I did a radio show, and we were speaking to, at the time, Mr. Arden McLean, who would have been a part of the PPM. At that time. And he was the Minister for Infrastructure Works and that kind of stuff. And I asked him, I was like, you did 4 or 5 years. No, you did your term, 4 years. What was one of the things you didn't get to see take place that you would have liked to have had an impact on? And he kind of stumped him, and he kind of like sat back, and he was very, very somber, and he was like, it's a dump. Mm-hmm. The dump I didn't get to tackle a lot and handle a lot.
Yeah, I've heard
and that was in 2010, right? So now we're 14 years later now. We're still an ongoing issue. I know your team was a part of trying to get that to come to fruition as well. So during your time, when you were minister, what was that one thing that you look back on and you're like, man, I wish I could have tackled this or handled this differently?
I spearheaded a committee, a cross-ministerial committee on housing, accessible housing, affordable housing, and housing across the board for not just our, first-time Caymanian buyers, etc., but also the needs from government. We brought in everybody from NAU to Children Family Services, planning, my ministry, and had a brilliant young man we got from the governor's office, chairing and coordinating everything. They had a bunch of roundtable discussions, including all the utility companies, everyone you could think of, bringing them in, throwing out ideas, etc. And the basis, the foundation of it was that we were going to create RFPs for our housing needs, and looking for Caymanian landowners to fulfill those needs. And for me, an important thing for me as well is social diversification, right? Not building somewhere and then putting all, everyone with one...
Building a project,
one social demographic in one place. So the idea was that across Ireland we have a lot of Caymanians with property, but may not have the
means to develop it.
So we would provide, let's just say you can do, and so we found out that NAU at the time needed 62 to 3-bedroom places and 30 1-bedroom places. We found out Children Family Services needed halfway houses for kids coming out of the foster parenting program.
That's a big thing, yeah.
Semi supervised. Mm-hmm. Somebody checks in the morning, somebody checks in the evening. There's cameras there and all that sorts of stuff. And also shelters for the homeless sort of thing. So the idea was we'd put out RFP for all these things, and then we would offer the bad word concessions to Caymanian landowners to develop them. But let's say you could fit. We even went to the point where we're talking about having duplexes, 5 units at a time, whatever, pre-approved plans.
Okay.
But based on your lot size, you could
that would help,
things, right? Expedite it through, because we understood the crisis when we were there. Just to tell you, 2017, 18, there was like a waiting list of 120 or 130 people for housing with the National Housing
Trust. Yeah.
there's like 600 and something now,
It's a lot.
right? But so we were talking about how do we, incentivize even people building apartments? How do you incentivize them to not build the $750 to the $2 million apartments? How do we incentivize? Because the most expensive part of building in Cayman is coming out of the ground.
Yeah, we've had that conversation here, I think.
It's coming out of the ground, and then after you've gone through all that pain and headache of 1.5, 2 years of planning, and you've filled backfill the
You want your
land
money
and
back.
everything.
Time to get that
But
profit.
now
yeah.
after that, it's just finishes, right? And do you put in the finishes and put in a little pool and stuff to sell the places for $750,000, or do you develop it to sell it at $350,000, $400,000? What is the incentive for you as a developer to do that, right? Outside of planning zones and stuff, which is desperately needed to reduce the kind of even if you do reduce the size of the buildings and all that, so it still doesn't matter. You can still fit them out and sell it at a higher cost. So we took all of that into consideration.
I think we've seen a lot of that now. I mean,
Yeah.
they're selling matchboxes for $500,000 now.
Straight up 3 stories.
Yeah.
Just,
So how do we, there was ways we could do that, and we taught the developers. So we had all these plans. Matthew Hilton was the name of the young man that
That's my boy.
that chaired it for me. COVID came, and he had, everything was there, and he played a huge role during COVID as well. But he had assured me that everything was there, and he would go back and put it together and stuff. I think that was going to be huge. And the other thing we wanted to say to people that say you could fit 5 apartments, we would say to you, we'll give you a 10-year lease for 2 of them for NAU to use.
okay.
The other 3 you can participate in the open market with, right? So besides the other concessions that we're going to give you to do this, we're going to assist you in a way that with 2 10-year leases that you can now go to the bank and say, I have
This cash flow for
this
the next
cash flow for the next 10 years. I have these concessions, so I'm going to have this much equity at the end of the day. And so we've accomplished a Caymanian entering into the market, realizing his or her dream. We have provided 2 units for NAU, and we are also creating social diversification.
So why did that die?
I don't know. I don't know why they chose not to go back to it. I certainly, in the first instance, made them know. I spoke to as many of them as I could to say, listen, this thing is right there. It's right there. And a lot of things I did, Georgetown revitalization, the housing thing, I made sure to do them so that it wasn't politicized, it wasn't Joey's thing, right? That in particular, I thought that was so important that I wanted it to be done by the Deputy Governor's office, right? So that my wish was that I didn't, we didn't expect to lose the election, but the thing was if we lost the election, they could just go and pick that right up. And it's a home run, for whoever takes office. So there were things like that we didn't get to complete. But housing is. We saw the writing on the wall. It was the advent of Airbnb.
Oh yeah. A lot of people lost their
2014,
rentals.
15, we had like a 20% increase in stayover tours with no new hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Right, that was all Airbnb.
Landlords were coming to tenants and saying, "Hey, y'all got to get out. I'm about to
Exactly.
Airbnb this."
And you had so where people were renting on West Bay Road, on the opposite side of the street for $1,700, $1,400 a month. All of a sudden, they got pushed out for Airbnb, where they were going to make $300, $350 a day. They then moved out into the outer districts and started, taking up all of the $1,400 a month
And more
$1,200
traffic,
a
more
month
traffic,
places.
more
Those persons
congestion.
got pushed out, and they went to the $900 a month, and the $700 to $900 a month tenants ended up in cardboard boxes in somewhere in the back of someone's yard.
It was a knock-on effect as well, because it increased the property value of those properties, which then increased the property values of the neighboring properties, which then
I can't afford to buy now.
But then when people went to go buy those properties to Airbnb them, they're buying them at the heightened price, so they have no choice but to rent them at a higher price.
Right,
now.
and they also started buying them up. People were just buying 2 or 3 units pre-construction because the goal was to put them in Airbnb. And that's another thing with planning zones. If you in the future when we have zones, if and when we ever get to to review the National Development Plan, you got to put zones in there where you cannot participate in tourism activities.
Yeah.
Right, or commercial activities, period. So that, you know, that those areas
Are protected.
are protected for homes. So
Every
for homes, basically.
every now and then, this comes up as to a reminder as to why we started this podcast.
Yeah,
The thought process that all of this shit is connected, and when we have
Yeah.
our people in Cayman who are flying by, let me just go to brunch, let me just get my Benz or
Yeah.
do my thing, and I don't get involved with politics. That ain't gonna do with me. And then, you know, 10 years later, they're on social media. When did this change happen, or what are we doing about this? And it's like, this has been coming for years, but you weren't paying attention. Like you were oblivious to it. Like, oh, interest rates don't affect me, or I'm not. Like, just like we do have a group of people who are just oblivious and willfully ignorant to things. And it's like, nah, all of this shit is connected, and you gotta pay attention. You gotta have.
There was another huge event that happened that most people, I wouldn't have known about it myself if I wasn't in government, and that was the economic substance legislation that the EU passed. And basically that legislation said that companies, international companies, can't just have labels, registered offices in tax jurisdictions and tax-free jurisdictions anymore. You actually have to have a warm body in a seat.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then they were so sure that was going to destroy our financial services. But what happened? What happened was when no matter where people moved to, no matter what tax-free jurisdiction they moved to, they were going to have a presence there. And so, you know, whether it was Guernsey or you know,
whatever,
Isle of Man or the Cayman Islands, when people came to look at people that hadn't even been here before,
Or Delaware,
or Delaware, people that hadn't even been here before,
good one.
came to the Cayman Islands to look at it, and 9 out of the 10 times the people I met, the wives said, well, you can, or the partner said, well, you can go back, you can go to Ireland or wherever you want to go. I'm staying here.
I'm not leaving. Yeah.
And that is ultimately the reason you saw.
I'm not leaving. Was that Wolf of Wall Street?
yeah.
I'm not
That's
leaving.
ultimately that. Let me tell you how that affected us in 2 ways.
Oh,
Right? That
I've
affected
seen
us
it.
because those persons moving their offices here and their people here needed accommodations.
Yep.
Right? That wasn't all. The developers who were planning, let us just take Camana Bay, for instance. This is no secret. The last couple of buildings they built were supposed to be apartments. Right? But when they realized, and they had to double the size of CIS just to fit the kids in, because they had a waiting list of families that were going to take offices in Camana Bay but needed classroom space for their children. So all of a sudden people who were looking to do residential buildings and that sort of stuff, or lower end affordable house, not even or achievable housing, all of a sudden realized there's a whole new market.
There's a market now.
Yeah.
So let me
Now
pivot
office
to
space, let me pivot to that. Office space is at a premium now. You know, it's and so they built offices instead of apartments. Right? If you go back and look at it, most of the master plans of developments around here, you saw where there was going to be tons of apartments, and then all of a sudden they switched and went to commercial space, because that became in demand. That was
a
in
new
demand,
yeah.
after the
You
beneficial ownership
didn't
legislation.
even charge like services.
It was
either.
fantastic for Cayman Financial Services and for the country in many other ways, but that just
Well, that's as a people we suffer.
exasperated the housing crisis. And the housing crisis, one can argue, affects everyone, but for Caymanians, it's
But also, Joey, too, the traffic, the more congestion,
traffic,
the more demand on our services, like the gas now. More people are buying gallons of gas. More people are going to the barbershops and going to get the food. So now the food costs, everything everything has a knockdown effect, and we just we can't.
Some things when you have more demand, you would hope that drives prices down, right? Because of competition and that sort of thing. But some of our issues are global, but some of them are real and tangible. But I truly believe that with a little bit of common sense, a little bit of care, and governing in a different way, where you're actually opening your eyes, going out there and hearing and feeling what people need, what their problems are, how do I genuinely improve your quality of life.
I think that's
if you do that, you can figure out ways to do it. And for our Caymanian people, you don't have to do it for the whole 80,000 people. It's for our Caymanian people.
But I think that's been a general feeling over the last 2 years or so. When we speak to people, when we hear people talk to us about the podcast, you go on the streets and you talk to your friends, your family, it's just, it feels like there's a disconnect and that no one is really hearing and feeling what the average person is going through.
So
yeah. It's not going to be, you can't resolve it overnight, you know.
No, of
but
course
people
not.
have to feel that you care and that you're going to do something about it. They have to see something happening or hear at least something is happening.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask, because I noticed you were going to say affordable, but you changed and you said achievable.
Achievable.
Is it that affordable housing is not really realistic in the current economy that we're in right now?
I think you need affordable housing as well. I would dare to say that Cayman's affordable housing is rural America, better than rural America. Towns where the homes look beautiful, but they're made out of texture 111 and thing. We have 100% concrete, and now you have renewable energies on it, and you know, it's a nice house. It's certainly not projects, but not just those people who have fallen through the cracks that need that help. It is you guys.
Yeah.
Right? It is every Caymanian that whether they return from university with a doctorate, it doesn't matter. It is you guys. It's all of you. You need help with housing. Right? Because of, we can't cut off our nose to spite our face. So we can't kill financial services and tourism at this point. We can manage it, we can slow it down, but we can't kill it. So what do we need to do? We need to focus on how do we help our people then? And that comes across including incentivizing, and I know people don't like to hear the word concessions, but incentivizing developers to build for Caymanians or build within a particular price category, restrict them from selling in block to develop to real estate companies. Because right now, if somebody's doing 40 units, 4 or 5 real estate companies come in and take 5 each. A real estate company themselves. Then they put them back in the market. So if you incentivize a development, you restrict them from all these things, right? And then you take NHDT, National Housing Development Trust, and you take it a step further. Have them vet Caymanians to go into places, because it's not just people that fell through the cracks, right? It is the average young person, in particular, coming home from university, graduating high school, graduating UCCI, right? Vet them to say, okay, you can stay here, or you on your current salary, are you able to pay your strata and insurance? Do you if you even have to do education to help them understand that, right? And then you place them in these properties where you have provided the incentive for the developer to provide. And there's various ways. I brought a motion to the House several months ago about it, last year actually, and I named 5 different programs that are used around the world. Shared ownership with the government. The government owns through a concession. The government says the development goes forward, you build in this price category, plus you're going to give us, if you get $1 million in concession and each one of your units are cost you, your cost, because it's going to be an open book thing, is $200,000. You're going to sell us 5 units at $200,000. You're going to sell the rest at $400,000, which is still achievable. But the National Housing Development Trust is going to have 5 units
at
$200,000.
Okay.
Right? So they can either just sell them to someone at a Caymanian at $200,000, or we could enter into shared ownership, where a Caymanian can buy 20% of it, 25% of it, whatever. And each year they can buy more.
But then what happens if the Caymanian wants to resell it? And
they have to resell it at the same discount.
Okay.
And back into the program.
Okay, so they're
let's say
they're not allowed to buy and sell for profit.
No.
Right. So the units were built at $400,000. When they're sold, they all go to $500,000. But you bought yours at 50% discount, right? Or that's the value placed on it by the government when you bought into that scheme. Let's say you end up owning 50% of that, right? And the current value is $700,000. So you're going to get the 50% of the $350,000, because that 50% is now going to go back into the program again for someone, and that's going to be the rate of inflation sort of thing, right? The government, with that National Housing Development Trust, can look at it and say, okay, well, this has now gone past the threshold for shared ownership. We're just going to put this up for sale for a Caymanian now.
Okay.
At $350,000 or whatever the case, because it's no longer that at that level that qualifies for that shared ownership to give somebody a start. Right. And then if you buy it at the 350,000, which is still 50%, if you go to sell it, you have to sell it back through the program at still the discounted price. So let's say it goes up to $1 million. You want to cash in, you can only sell it for 500,000 to someone in the program.
Back in the program. Yeah, keep it in the
So
program.
I would like
cooperative.
I would like you to indulge me in my ignorance for a bit here, in my pipe dream, as I've been advocating for some time.
Oh shit.
And this may be in contrast to the general line that your party has taken. I've taken quite the extreme position.
This boy is saucy today. We have no what was that thing you guys were drinking that time? The
Canadian whiskey.
He's not even drinking tonight. Okay.
Well, I mean, we're here to
Might
ask
be the
questions.
weather. Might be the weather.
We're here to ask questions.
You know what it is? It's Chris getting in political season mode. That's all it is. So we should have a good political season this year.
Oh boy. Anyway, so it is essentially the cruise. My mic is a little bit staticky. That's fine. Oh,
they try and cut you off, man. Let it go.
As soon as I start talking now, the light's about to cut off now. Power gone.
I have to tell you, there was every time I was on a telephone call driving into the government administration building, I dropped my call. I always said that was when the UK was like tapping in.
I'll tell you something funny. We did a live show with a live audience by Agave a few months ago, and as soon as we started talking politics, the power cut off. Or it was C actually. Yeah. But anyway,
I went to another event. Never mind.
Anyway, so my pipe dream, my indulgence that I would like you to indulge me in. Sorry, is that. You mentioned that if we were going to take the position, or the government was going to take the position, that they were going to let cruise tourism die, that we would have to figure out what we're going to do with the current people that are operating in that sector. You also brought up the revitalization of Georgetown, and I'm going to marry these two eventually. So the reason I bring that up is because we've done Cardinal Avenue now, and that's still ongoing, the expansion of that. We locals don't really get direct benefit from it. It's mostly the tourists that are out there shopping on that street every day, whatever. And those are the cruise tourists for the most part. Now, if there was some kind of end to cruise tourism, if we don't build the port, as the chairman or CEO or whoever that was that came here, or was it here that he said that? Where he said that essentially...
it was during a tourism conference,
Yeah, essentially, if we don't build a berthing facility, that ships are not going to be coming here.
Yeah,
essentially.
They've been saying that for years.
That's been proven. They've been saying it.
So granted, now are the percentages still about 20% of our tourism product is in cruise? Are those numbers roughly correct?
I don't know if the percentage of tourism might be around there. It's hard. That one is hard to quantify.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but
roughly,
let's say
plus or minus 10%. Let's just say. All right. Now, if we were to stop cruise tourism, just walk in my little vacuum here now. They're not gonna. And I know there's a lot of economics and financial stuff.
No, we good. Go ahead.
If we were to re-incentivize these landlords on that strip and in that area to move away from, if I freaking hate them, jewelry stores and money laundering operations that we have in, I shouldn't say that.
Allegedly.
We are the most well-regulated jurisdiction in the world. We do not have money laundering jewelry stores in the Cayman Islands.
Wow, Chris. Thank you for that disclaimer. Yeah.
I'm just saying they do very well for not having anybody in there. So, anyways,
that's because they'll mark up like 700%.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So we moved out to jewelry stores, into bars, restaurants. We go to that multi-level scheme where we allow people to live in town, which we're slowly starting to see kind of happening. Got one GT coming up now, because right now there's nothing to do in town. There's nowhere to park. And there's nowhere for people to live directly in the heart of town. If we really want to bring back Georgetown and have people there after 5 p.m., outside of going to office and the other places around,
I see the little plug. Okay.
Well, you know, that was my favorite spot.
We need to get out of here. No, actually, we get there. Go ahead.
If cruisism died, we allowed people to live in town, to move in there, to open up that strip a bit more, build multi-level parking where people can park and walk around and live in town. Would that not be a benefit to really bringing back Georgetown instead of just having all of these T-shirt shops, little gift shops that no one local buys stuff from except for maybe Christmas time? They might buy a little stocking stuffer or whatever.
It's important for locals during Christmas, those stores.
Yeah, no, I get you, but at the same time,
I go to the Haagen-Dazs on Cardinal.
It's closed. Oh, that's the latest. That's the latest victim. They're all
there we go. Wow. So anyways, so getting more people in Georgetown.
The gelato shop around the corner that closed down a while ago. The coffee shop is closed.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Blue, whatever.
This is adding to it now.
The vegetarian place.
There's got to be more than going to
Hard Rock.
There's got to be more than going to Dartville to get all of our entertainment.
He has parking.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
I love
so
you're saying we should move off of cruise tourism.
Let's pull it all back together now because I hear you. There's challenges, right? First of all, let us be careful when we talk about percentages on people's lives, right? That is a dangerous thing because it's only 20% or 10% of tourism revenue, but what that multi-million-dollar number means to the guy that runs the water sports operations out of the cruise town, off cruise ship passengers, the taxi guy, the tour guy, George is selling coconuts. What does that percentage mean? George is my constituent. I got to stand up for George.
I get you, but at the same time, isn't there a gretter benefit to the whole population?
We don't know that.
And then we should have a responsibility to our Caymanian people, and that is certainly one of the areas that Caymanians have participated in historically, and the area as far as tourism is concerned that by far the majority of Caymanians participated. We have someone in the room that's been very quiet, but she and I could probably talk for a whole another show. But yeah, I grew up in the hospitality industry. I bartended right up until I became chamber president. My father said to me, son, you can't serve them and lead them at the same time. My good friend Brian Barnes, I did all, every time there was a cocktail party or whatever, I made very, very good money. On top of the tip that people would leave me, I could not pick up my paycheck from
that's
my dad.
fair. But there's only so many actual restaurants that tourists are visiting.
Well, that is
in town.
The issue is that we have had restaurants close, ice cream shop. They have closed because of the 50% drop in cruise numbers. That's why they've closed. Right? There's no two ways about it. There was no other business that was keeping them open prior.
Fair. That's fair. Because you started during COVID. Yeah.
When did they open?
They need the boats.
When did they all open? When we were at 1.9 million cruise tourists in 2016-17. That's when they all opened. You look at it, right? And the promises of Georgetown revitalization. And you're absolutely right. Things that the parking lots should have come first. There should have been RFPs out on that a long time ago. The park and ride should still remain. Safety, lighting and safety.
That's a big one for town.
For town, right? You got to feel wherever that parking, where you got to go park now.
You can't just be parked up no more
places that you can go park to walk to any restaurant or bar that you may have in town, right? You got to deal with the dark areas. You got to deal with the surrounding areas. The police may as well on a Saturday night and Friday night just stand out at North Church Street and take reports from people that their cars have been broken into.
Right.
Right? So we have issues, and then living in Georgetown, what are you going to do with the port? You can't sleep in Georgetown. You got trucks with their
well, that's
Minister Brian did it in Parliament the other day, made the sound. You guys should look that up for a meme.
Well, that's
I wouldn't even try it, but you got these trucks with the Jake brakes.
Yeah, but that's city life though, right? If you opt to live next to a loud situation, you have to accept that's going to be your outcome, right? If you buy an apartment above a club, You kind of have to expect you're gonna feel some bass when the nighttime comes.
Yeah, but then what are you creating? Because if it's going to get to the point, if you're talking about real accommodations and stuff, then and when you look at the value of Central Georgetown property,
Right.
you're going to drive those. If you're going to lower it down to young kids or whoever or anyone that's going to stay there and listen to Jake Breaks all night until it's all night.
Yeah, it's all
It
night.
is all night. It's 24
Well,
hours.
let me answer then.
But then the question then, what about 1GT? Are they not doing that?
Well, they're off the track.
They off the track now. They're not in the path.
Yeah,
They're off the track,
but
so-
around there as well. So
Right, but then if you even put restaurants and stuff to support 1GT in the middle of town, you got to make sure that there's footpaths that are well lit, have the little emergency poles that you can press emergency button and things like that. It's there. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done.
Well, it's just a pipe dream. I don't think cruise tourism's closing down.
I'm just pointing
for
out.
the record.
I'm just pointing out. It's going to dwindle right down to where it's not going to be something we're proud of. And the ships,
that's what I want to
the
get
ships
into,
that
yeah.
are going to come, the ships that are coming, right, are now your
The lower value.
$375, $400 5-day cruise all inclusive.
The carnival.
Right? You are not. That is why the stores are closing, because even the ships we are getting now,
They waiting to get back on the boat to eat.
they're not spending the money there, right? Let me tell you. You want me to tell you the difference?
Go
Let me
ahead.
tell you a glaring example of the difference, the quality in our cruise tourists. When we were receiving Disney and Norwegian, and the good boats, not Norwegian. I'm getting guidance over here.
Celebrity cruises, all them big ones, yeah.
When we were getting the 7-day cruises for $2,000 per person kind of cruise or whatever, the line of tour buses lined up, piling people up because they want to go down to 7 Mile Beach. They want to go to the nice restaurants and bars down there. They want to take the nice cruises. They want to... Bro, you go down there now and you look, the poor tour operators are sitting there twiddling their thumbs, and everybody's walking off that ship and going down there, red spot by the fish market, and swimming and sunbathing.
It do be packed.
Right?
Yeah.
You
It
go
do
further
be
down.
packed, yeah.
You go further down. You want to see something? Go behind the wharf. That little beach there be packed.
Pageant Beach.
They're not buying no bus ride. They're not paying no taxi ride. They're not paying for no chair. They're not paying for no lunch in 7 Mile Beach. They're going right there. Those are the cruise passengers we have. Now just look at that spot alone. If that don't tell you what I mean, it packed.
I've seen cruise ship people
Sunbathing, swimming
on Eastern Avenue, and I'm like, how did you get down here? Yeah, I saw two of them. I went to Corners.
Affordable food.
No, I went to Corners one day and I saw two of them walk up. I'm like, what? How did you even find it?
They heard the
I see
review.
that.
They heard the pod. They heard the
I
pod.
see them in Rockall all the time, and I
Yeah,
stop and ask them if they're okay and stuff.
So I have a question now, directly with the port now. The current government has committed to spending $1.2 million on this
1.5.
referendum, $1.5 million for this referendum before the general election. Why is it that they just don't do the referendum during the election and save the country this
$1
money?
million question,
Literally.
literally.
Yeah.
What's your stance on that?
$1 million question, literally. My stance is it's I have to be. I'm always cognizant that you have to take in consideration. Like I said, the use of percentages when it affects one Caymanian life don't work for me, right? So I want to look at it from all angles. My concerns is that a true representation, having not reviewed, because everything we're talking about right now is speculation.
Right.
Yes.
We're bringing evidence that we see 5 food facilities and stuff closed in town. We're speculating, but they have done zero to understand what cruise tourism has looked like since COVID, right? I am speculating that it's still predominantly Caymanians doing it because we don't know, right? So we've been certainly calling for, and everyone, most of us that campaign with any form of manifesto said that we would do a study on cruise tourism going forward, to put together a plan for cruise tourism. That plan could say that we're going to phase it out, right? So we don't know. And I think that we're doing both sides an injustice by having a referendum that just simply says, should the government build cruise piers.
It's just an idea that you're voting on. You're not voting on anything else besides the idea.
Yeah, and maybe the hope is that some people, some environmentalists or some that are against cruise tourism might say, it's just an idea, so I say yes. But it's more than likely persons who may support cruise tourism if they knew if it's going to be 1 pair, 2 pairs, where the pair is going to be, all that sort of stuff, or had the information come out that there were still 6,000 Caymanians working in cruise tourism in one way, shape, or form. We don't know. But persons that are on the fence are either not going to show up to vote, or they're going to go in and vote no because of the uncertainties. Right?
You don't know what you're voting for,
you don't
essentially.
know. And then as well as I would say that this close to the election, I don't know why. They must have their own reasons why they will wait until they don't want to wait until election day and have the referendum at the same time. We've done it historically.
I mean,
done it on the Constitution, and we've done it on single-member constituencies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other idea is that they're not putting together a plan for it, and they're leaving it as an idea because then it wouldn't be binding.
Well, if it's not binding because it's a government
initiated referendum.
Initiated referendum. So you pray and hope that you get the nod to go ahead. If you don't get the nod to go ahead, then you do a bunch of studies and you come back and say we're still going to go ahead because or whatever. Or I guess it gives you an open. I'm not going to sit here and speculate what their reasons are. I really don't know.
Fair.
I really don't know. I just know you're going to piss off a bunch of business people that are going to have to give people time off or close their businesses in the middle of high season.
Yeah, that's going to hurt my...
We'll take the public holiday, though.
Yeah, that's going to hurt my business, too, because I do a lot of, like, websites and stuff for the tour operators and stuff, so... Yeah, we need them to
give them in business.
we need them.
I'm talking about a referendum day. That's gonna be a holiday. That has to be a holiday.
We're gonna party that day.
Right in the middle of the high season.
I didn't get to talk about a dump, but I know we where we have for time. In a little minute. 1:30? All right.
We got time?
Nah. I want to get into the future, man. I want to get into the. I want to say PPM. People still call it that. I know you guys did a rebrand.
I think we're gonna stick with PPM.
Y'all might have to, man, because the Progressives didn't.
We might stick with PPM, and then I'll be, God's willing, I'll be the 4th leader, so we're gonna call it PPM. 0.4.
So, real quick, let me get you.
Just before you go ahead, I just want to say, I know PPM not really strong in BT West, so if you guys want,
if you need somebody
for BT West,
you're the man.
Yep.
Gosh, I think
my campaign manager right across from
Yes, I think I have membership applications in a truck.
No, I take one.
So it was speculated.
You heard it here first.
It was speculated that the Progressives would be running a full slate of candidates this coming general election. Is that true?
We would love to. We're aiming for 15, minimum of 12.
Okay. How many did you run last time?
As progressive members?
Yes, as actual progressives, not the independents supported by progressives.
8.
Okay.
And 7 won.
You guys making substantial investment this time.
All of the progressive and PPM incumbents were re-elected.
That's what I tell people.
So I know both Barbara and David had said they don't want to run this election. Are they actually bowing out?
I can't say. I know there've been, it's been a tough couple of years to be in opposition. You're trying to help.
Explain that to me, yeah.
Yeah, because it's tough enough when you have a government that's functioning properly, right? But when you're in a position where, it's tough enough being in opposition when you have a government that's functioning properly. But when you can't even get to Parliament to bring motions or ask questions, get answers for your constituents, it becomes even more frustrating. And then when you have to go out and face your constituents for decisions that the government have made and there's nothing you can do about it. And, I made a decision a long time ago. I wasn't going to go and get on Radio Cayman every week and complain and whine and cry like some people have done in the past, because that isn't helpful either. I didn't call any names.
We know some of them, though. It's okay. Go ahead.
That isn't helpful either. So it's been really frustrating. And when you see your people hurting, on a serious note, now when you take people of the caliber of David and Barbara, people that are in their communities all the time. I mean, Barbara I've never met someone who works as hard as Barbara does. Never. There's nobody else out there that works as hard as Barbara does. Right? And she's doing it not for glory or anything like that. And I think if Barbara decides not to run, I feel sorry for whoever goes in and takes that constituency, because they can still have to deal with her, because she can still be out there working for her people.
Fair enough.
That's just who Barbara is. And David can't even get away from it. His gas station right in the middle of it, people walking in the door all day.
That's right.
Right? So you can't get it. And when you can't help your people, it's discouraging.
I can see. I can understand. I can understand that. Yeah.
So when do you guys expect to make announcements of?
I think the pictures have become a lot clearer around November.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, we got some time.
You got a lot. Yeah, man. We got to do a disc profile and all that kind of stuff. Figure out okay.
What's your I know obviously you'd love to run a full slate, and I know that has its own challenges. Mm-hmm. You talk about Cayman Brack and certain districts that there may be certain
some of the incumbents are going to win their seats. There's no two ways about it.
100%. I mean, you guys have always been strong in town. If you look back historically over the last 4 or 5 elections, it's one thing that's for certain, is that the PPM runs Georgetown.
Yeah,
I will. It's impressive when you look at the numbers. I went back and looked at the results over the years. What is it that you're looking for in terms of this new, I guess, PPM 4.0? What's your main? What are your main goals and objectives for this next election and this next, hopefully this next, I would say, chance to lead the government?
Without getting into policy. My goal is to put a government back in place that is working, cohesive, have the same attributes traditionally.
Paul, I got to pause you there. Chris is laughing. We'll make sure we get that for the camera and for the mics. Go ahead. And a chance he gets to dig at that
has the same foundation that the PPM has given us, that of good governance. We have a history of strong leadership, in particular during times like COVID and stuff like that. But then with a new breath, with a new direction towards becoming that much more connected to the people, all the people, not just our core, but the entire country. Having that sort of accessibility and inclusiveness, and to build the party back, that when I am ready to move on, that we have that 4.0. We're 22 years later, 4 leaders later.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy enough for us to run around and say, listen, we're better than any other party that's been on that. And, the 2 or 3 parties that started never lasted. We've had, very easy transitions, planned transitions from leader to leader, 4 leaders in. But we have to now look at what is going to take us for the next 24 years. And that's where I want to leave the party and the country, because I think it's important. And I'm not against, I would love to see another party enter the arena, because I think it's important, for democracy to have at least 2 parties or 2 organized groups.
Speaking of parties, how do you feel one man, one vote has served the country, and it's this will be its third run?
This would be the
second.
Third.
Sorry.
So the first one was 17.
Yeah,
second one was
21.
This would be the
Third.
third. This would be the third. I think it has served some in some instances the pros have been more for the constituents than it has been for the country.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now constituents have that person. They don't have to wonder about who to call. When you had 6 in Georgetown, you don't know who to call, and everybody can pass on, oh, this one will call you or whatever. You have an issue in Georgetown North, is one person to call now. Right? And if I don't respond to you, that's going to cost me my seat. Right? So for the constituents, in that sense, it has been a positive thing. It can be reversed. One of the pillars I talk about is social inclusion, and that is goes across, including removing any chances for political victimization and that sort of stuff. But that is one of the negatives of it, that, even within your constituency, because if you got a constituency like some of the constituencies that are around 400 and something people, you need 226 to win. You could just focus on 226 people for the whole 4 years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's only like 2 families.
There's
So you could turn around and build 100 affordable houses and put people in them and
good to go.
You're good to go.
Because that was the thing with the results too. One of the districts where this particular it was I think between 3 persons, and the one person won with 30-something% of the vote.
Yeah, that might have been 4 people.
And then 60% to me said they didn't want you.
Yeah.
And now
I think
you
we
have,
could get deep on those, and I think I know the one you're talking about, but I think there was at least 2 candidates that were going around saying they were PPM candidates in that.
It's a district once you pass, certain red bay, But I'm glad you mentioned, I guess trying to reach out to different demographics, because that's one of the criticisms with the people.
And young people, the younger people.
We don't get to the young people,
Got to get the younger people involved. Less than, I think it's like 50% of the eligible young people are not registered to vote.
Yeah, well, yeah, for various reasons. So some of them I think are sorry?
We got them.
You got them?
Yeah.
BT West?
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, one of the criticisms I remember hearing with the PPM is that, you guys were just, I guess, for a particular demographic. And I think that's one of your biggest challenges. And then we heard, there was things about, the spending. There was the schools. There was the port.
Look at the schools now. I wish.
So yeah, you kind of have an uphill battle in that sense. And are you guys paying attention to that? And is that going to be a part of the rebrand come 2020, 25?
Absolutely. Listen, sometimes your own successes can be fatal to you as well, right? But when you think about the Progressives, the PPM was a grassroots movement. And you yourself said that Georgetown is a stronghold. You couldn't get more grassroots than Georgetown, right? And it was Georgetown proper too,
right?
Mm-hmm. So
that's where the big dog used to run.
Yeah.
And when he speak, they listen
all over the place. So then you fast forward to 2013 when the economy was struggling. Unemployment was over 10% for Caymanians.
Oh, what year?
2013.
Okay. So 2013. So from 2009 to 2013, that was when we had some interest in spending habits, and the UK government came in and put in the FFR
framework for fiscal responsibility and took control of our budget.
Right.
They had to approve our budget. So the cash reserves are down to nothing.
There was some.
We were coming off.
There were some issues with salary too. Government being able to pay salary at that time.
There were a couple of times that civil servants were waiting on their pay, and I mean, as a businessman, I used to remember calling friends that I had in government to say, "Listen, my business is going to fold if I don't get paid by this ministry. Do you have extra money you can lend them?" And literally,
wow.
Right. And crime was through the roof. We were talking about that earlier with the murders and stuff like that. And this is all part of the, as some of it, not the issues with the then leader, legal issues and stuff, but some of the issues we were facing were because of the 2008 recession, right? And we were struggling through that. Cruise tourism was down to less than 1 million. Stopover tourism was stagnant at best. And so we came in, the Marriott was in receivership. The Westin was in receivership. The Ritz was about to go into receivership, or they might have actually also been. They were up for sale anyhow. And businesses were struggling. So when we took office at that time, our main focus was repair our relationship with the UK, get back control of our budget, and economic revitalization.
Big up my boy, Mr. Archer, right? So economic revitalization meant that we had to stimulate the economy, right? We had to do things to stimulate the economy. You take a 20-year-old now
How old was that 20-year-old in 2013?
Right now, 9.
That 20-year-old that's saying that we are elitist or we give out concessions and stuff. They were 9 years old when we did that.
No concept.
They were 9 years old when we did that. And we did that to keep the hotels open. And so you have a group coming in, they say, listen, we're going to buy this hotel. We're going to pay the stamp duty in it. Stamp duty is going to be 200 and, if we got 200 million, stamp duty is up there in the millions. All right? But we need to do $50 million in renovations. Can we get some duty waivers on materials? All right, so okay, you're going to buy it. We're going to receive much more than that in stamp duty alone. And we said to them, you have to hire 60% Caymanians on site. And we give you this concession once you start. We felt that was the best way to do it. When you start construction, that means the construction is happening. The trickle-down effect, as we call it, the ESO says construction is 2.5 times the value. All right, so $50 million renovation, the trickle-down effect in the economy is 2.5 times the value. Right? Then we get a nice, fresh hotel that used to have a beach opens, and
That used to have a beach.
All of a sudden,
What are we talking about there?
all of a sudden, they're breaking records. All of a sudden, we have the highest average daily room rate by almost 10% in the region, and government is collecting 9% tax on every night stay. All right, that's how economy works. Right, that's how economics work. And so we had to do that several times. We got construction back going. Right, we got the hotels. We took stay-over tourism. They laughed at me. We were in Houston, I think it was, for globals, what they call globals. Department of Tourism bringing all their partners and strategic partners into one place and they move it around. And they were talking about a target of 325,000 stay-over tourists. And I got up and I said, what's wrong with 500,000? Everybody looked at me and laughed. In fact, they nicknamed me the 500,000 man after that. And I said, I tell you what, I'll even give it to you guys in the U.S. Let's aim for 400,000. And, it was a big joke when we topped 400,000 in like a year, right? And a lot of that had to do, we were counting on Treasure Island being redeveloped. We were counting on the opening of the...
Did they resell?
They resold, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think it would have been a wonderful brand. I think it would have did well if COVID didn't hit.
Okay.
I think the Margaritaville brand would have, and it was another dimension of our tourism product.
Yeah.
Another can't remember the proper name now, but target audience for our tourism. But yeah, we were just counting on those to give us that extra room inventory. We had not had, in fact, we had lost room inventory for the decade before that because we lost the original Holiday Inn that's now the Kimpton.
Right.
So we had actually lost room inventory. We had not gained any. But then came Airbnb, and we were lucky enough. We reached out to Airbnb and they said, well, listen, what we can do for you is we're going to provide you with a list of all Cayman Islands properties, and each time one registers, we're going to let you know, and then we're going to send that client a letter telling them that the Cayman Islands law requires you to be licensed by Department of Tourism, and so we can track it and we can collect our head tax and that sort of stuff. So it became an important part of our tourism product, despite the unintended consequences we spoke about earlier with housing. But we were able to grow tourism, stay over tourism that way. And we broke records every year right up until COVID,
So granted now, next year.
So this is a different time.
Yeah.
This is not 2013.
Right.
We had that job to do. We got us off of the framework for fiscal responsibility, or that's still around, but we by the time we got to our second budget, the UK said, you guys can handle yourself. We no longer need to approve your budgets. Then we went to 2-year budgets, and then we went into COVID. But things are different now. We're not in the same situation we were in 2013. These are different problems we're having now. Some of them are, as I said, as a result of our growth. whether intended or unintended growth. Some of the issues we're facing now are because of that. Some are because of global issues. I think, food costs and those sorts of things across the world.
Inflation, everything.
Yeah. Interest rates like you talked about. Thank goodness they're signaling. We just had a reduction.
0.5. Half a point.
Better than a quarter.
Yeah.
So
better than an increase.
So the things we talked about, the issues we're facing now as a country are completely different than they were in 2013.
Different times, yeah.
Different times,
yeah.
And different issues. And so we have to, as a party, we're now going to have to articulate, we're going to have to evolve to be the government that represents the issues of the day.
So one of the big issues you've brought up, development, is people have this, have a negative, I guess, feeling towards development and the changing landscape of the island. Is there conversations, ideas of how much development is needed? I know they have the project, what's it called there? The project Cayman, Plan Cayman project thing.
It hasn't started yet.
But they've been going out to doing assessments,
they did that
districts and all that kind of stuff, interviews.
The framework. Framework document, yeah.
What is your vision if you were to become, I guess, premier next year in terms of the development plan for the island?
The Plan Cayman was my project. Started with me.
Let them know, boy.
Started with me. I didn't write the framework, obviously. It was a group of young Caymanians. Very, very, very bright individuals. I was so impressed with that team in the planning department that worked on Plan Cayman. The idea of splitting the island into, because Plan Cayman and the development plan, National Development Plan, created in 1997, 27 years ago almost. It does not include sister islands, right? So, but breaking Grand Cayman up into the 5 zones was the idea of those young Caymanians in the department, which made absolute sense, because the reason that we have not been able to review the National Development Plan since 1997 is every time they tried to do Grand Cayman as a whole, let's say the landfill, any hot topic, any controversial topic that comes up consumes the whole plan, right?
Oh, because of that one topic, then the whole plan's...
Yeah, it just consumes it, becomes controversial. The minister gets, gun shy, and then it dies.
Okay.
Right? So the whole idea was to break the island up into 5 zones. The law requires you to review the National Development Plan every 5 years.
For a couple of years, yeah.
So if you do 5 zones, you could do 1 zone a year, thereby fulfilling the requirements of the law.
What are these zones?
After 5 years. So the zones were West Bay Road, part of Georgetown going east. That was 3, and then 2 more zones, Bordentown, North Side, East End.
Okay.
Right? And the thing is about it, so right now we knew, or back then we knew West Bay Road needed attention. You're talking about rising sea levels, you're talking about beach erosion, you're talking about beach accesses, setbacks from the ocean, building heights, all these things that are being left to arbitrary decisions now by the CPA, because the laws are antiquated, right? And they can't stop people from building right on the water. Right? They can't stop people from moving access because the law has not.
So
when you think about sustainability, 1997 when they thought about sustainability, the whole idea was that you should build these large, sprawling, low height buildings, taking up tracts of land, right, to fit in 50, 60 condos. And have all your plants.
You see all the old school condos that are like that.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So that was the idea of sustainability back then, right? And then they built it right up onto the beach because your setbacks are based on your building height, right? So what is sustainability now, where land use is becoming a premium and where we need to set back even further from the beach? So sustainability may look like tighter developments, a bit higher and further back from the beach.
But is it too late for 7 Mile Beach now?
No, it's not too late because we've seen some redevelopments. We see a major one happening now. I knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. The planning department knew it was coming. Anyone with any foresight knew that when you talk about some of the older places that have been built 30 years ago, they're not, I should say, handicap compliant.
Oh, for sure. No
Right?
elevators.
They're no
nothing,
longer
yeah.
fire code compliant. They're no longer plumbing code compliant. So when you go to do a renovation or something, it makes more sense to knock the
Lick
place
it down and start over.
and build to the current building heights that were passed 15 years ago, 10 stories. But you get to build those 10 stories right up on the beach.
But the problem is now some people
So-
are going to feel like they don't want to see that on 7 Mile Beach. They don't want to see the high-rise buildings because it just feels like they're in a different place
Well, you-
now.
But this is the time we in.
But this is what we.
I'm just-
yeah.
No,
but
I agree, but
this is
I
what
think people want their cake and eating it too. Like Cayman is shifted and
But
changed.
this is what we have to. What is sustainability? Because if people, let's say, on the opposite side of West Bay Road, if persons are able to do 10-story apartment complexes, and a number of them are built, and let's say that zoning has said that you have to restrict that only 30% of it can be used for tourism, for commercial, right? Because we're concerned about people using the beach and stuff. We know that if Caymanians buy it, we're not going on the beach every day, right? But if ever one of them goes into Airbnb, we're not going in the water during the winter.
Yeah, I don't do the water after October. Nah, you can't do the water.
We're not going in the water until all like June again the following year.
Yeah.
So, but so if you restrict that to say 30%, just use that number for tourism activity only. That leaves the rest of it that could be sold at a competitive price that Caymanians could actually go live on 7 Mile Beach if they wish to.
Yeah, just cross the street. Yeah, I'll take that any day.
Well, the Grove was originally
listen
quite
to me,
competitive.
I can't afford to. If somebody gave me a condo on 7 Mile Beach, I'm selling that in a fire sale before that first strata bill come in.
I was gonna say that.
And
if he saying he can't afford it, then we
Bro, when that first
Have you
strata
heard of the
bill,
strata fees at watercolors?
No, I haven't actually. Okay, do you know?
Listen to me, man.
We got to get out of here, man. We've had him.
So we need Joey to come back, talk about the dump.
talk about the dump.
In the
And you know,
future.
the dump was. I never worked in the dump. I paid keen attention to it. It sits right in the middle of my constituency. And if I have to say one thing before we go, and people don't just look at Dart, don't just look at Commander Bay. You got, Watlers Road right there, known as Dog City. You got Swamp right across. You got Webb Road just to the south of it. You have Marbell. You have Parkway. You have even Jasmine. But you look at Parkway and Marbell and Slate Drive. Those are all Caymanians living there.
That's
Right?
the first time I
And
ever heard Swamp real name.
Washington Boulevard.
That's the first time I've ever heard it.
So
Me too.
Someone, one of the, I may get it wrong, so and I won't. But one of the social media sites did I almost had a heart attack because I was in London for a public accounts committee workshop, and I opened up Instagram and I look and I saw this guy coming out of smoke by Kirk Supermarket at the intersection there, right? And I'm like, oh my God, because the time difference, right? I'm said to my wife was there. I'm like, I said, honey, the dump is on fire. I can't believe this. She goes, no, I saw that too. That's Throwback Thursdays. I almost died.
Oh, I know which page that was.
But listen, the smoke wasn't going Commander Bay.
It comes down this way. Yeah, it comes
I remember it.
My constituents in Dog City, I had people in the hospital.
Yeah, I
asthma
remember.
issues. They closed the Red Cross. They closed once
They did evacuations.
Yeah, and then once the fire service said that they had the fire under control, they closed the Red Cross shelter. But people couldn't still go home. The fumes were there for weeks.
It was stained. The walls were stained with the smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
ACs, people were having issues with the ACs. They had to, scrub your AC and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. The smoke didn't blow that way. Very rare that the smoke blows that way.
So we need that sorted. So you definitely got to come on then.
Yeah.
So I got the most important question of the day now. So
You sure?
it's a quick one.
Okay.
It's the most important one.
Okay.
Let's say you win election, you become the next premier. 4 years now, the Olympics in Los Angeles.
I might go.
If we win gold, can we get a public holiday?
If we win gold,
If we get Cayman's first gold medal,
yeah,
do we get Olympic Day?
No, it's Jordan.
Whoever wins it.
There will be a holiday to celebrate it. I don't know if it'll be an annual holiday, but we will have an holiday.
I've been advocating this, and I'm going to continue doing it. I'm going to beat down the dollars.
Or do it every 4 years.
It's going to be a constituent of Bordentown West that wins that gold.
You know. Fair enough. I don't want to hold you too much longer, man. I thought we had a good talk. Hopefully you feel the same way and you'll come back to sit with us. I guess as the election draws near, and if you have more information that you can share with us, we'll be happy to hear it and discuss it. I want to talk a little bit more next time, I guess, about getting the young people out there to vote as well. So that's the invitation is always there for you if you're willing to have it. I want to get us to the office really quickly. So I know before we started, you mentioned you were doing some research. Before we get out of here, let's just finish that up. You doing some research on paintings?
Oh yeah. I was looking at I was looking on EK Trade. So it seems like the $7 million painting got bought.
You're a liar.
Well, it's all for EK, so I gotta assume somebody bought it. But I see there's 3 more paintings up there for a reasonable price.
She put more up?
Yeah, there's 3 more. They're reasonable price, just 1.5 mil. Nothing so crazy.
Something light.
Yeah, I come down from 7, but
she DM'd us a $12 million painting.
Oh, she did? Yeah. 12 million?
12 million.
12 million.
Her chest higher one.
The down at watercolors.
Shout outs to Betty. When Betty, the artist, she put up her painting last week, and we talked about it on the show. In the clip, we put up the clip as well, and the clip went around, and she obviously got word, and she had some words for us. And
she put you on blast.
What she did?
She pretty much called you a hater.
Yeah, you would hate him.
She literally put up a story with you.
I said I support it.
She put a story of you and people that don't support her.
I just said she shouldn't have used EK, but I said I supported it. Like if somebody gonna buy it, buy it. But we reposted it too. So I mean, give us a commission if we If
she sells it for 12 million, we'd get like what 0.5%.
Something light.
Yeah. 0.2. That should keep the lights on inside here for a while.
Yeah. Any final comments before we got it? Oh, let me do real quick. Just do I want to shout out somebody very important.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say I had ordered I ordered bento at 7:30 from McDonald's because I thought we were gonna be done. 5 minutes, they told me to order already. So
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, no. 5 minutes after I pressed the order button.
So why?
So amazing service.
Oh.
I was looking at the time and I was like, okay, I want a half. We almost done. I can pop out, get the food.
Nah, you learn your lesson?
Yeah.
Them fries, you gotta get them fries done over, man.
Oh no, man, I got curry goat. So
okay.
He good, man.
My Bordentown West potential progressive candidate I would have bought. You did not buy.
You went too quick. Man. I want to start the Cayman Heart Fund real quick. Cayman Heart Foundation, I should say. Robert Hamady Memorial 5K Walk, September 29th. If you're looking for a good activity, get yourself going. Also, I call him Mr. Rum Cake one, but the pilot, former pilot, Tortuga. It's a good activity. You know what I mean? Get you.
He's the one behind the mini rum gate.
Yo, I don't want to talk to you about no rum. You be quiet. I'm still upset at you. And also to shout out to my boy Jerome McCoy, named Deputy Chief Officer for Education. I don't got nothing bad to say about Jerome. Over 20 years he's been there. I think he got me my first job in government.
This Jerome from UCCA?
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know.
Yeah, I've balled a couple times.
So
I was a Jerome one. I was in my first UCCA class. It was whatever the year that was, and I was talking shit, and I was like, "Yo, you should get me a job. You should get me a job where you work." He worked in public works at the time. He was like, "Yo, bring me your resume." Oh. And the next day I brought him my resume. The next day he called me. He was like, "You got an interview. Come on down." And I got my first job. And he's always been 100. And so seeing him get the opportunity to be deputy chief officer, just seeing another young Caymanian, progressing up in the civil service, I want to give him his respect and his props. And I think, sometimes we don't always get it right when we do in the hiring, but that's definitely one of the times that the government has gotten it right. So shout out to Mr. McCoy.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, should PPM win the next election?
PPO 4.0.
Yeah, when they win,
you guys are talking properly. So you gotta say when we win the next year.
When we win the next election, we just need Saturday just to go to 1 p.m. Nothing too crazy. We're not asking for too much. Just a 1, maybe a 2. 2 p.m.
We need Sunday trading.
No, 2 a.m.
To be honest, but that's
the 1 a.m. you talk?
Yeah. 1
Okay.
a.m. 1 a.m. or 2 a.m.
I want Sunday
the 12
trading.
o'clock thing.
See, this is when he comes back. We can tackle those
Yeah,
topics
we
as
can give
well.
him our list.
Referendum.
Our demands.
That's the thing. Is gonna go to a referendum. To be honest, I think we should do referendums for every election. Every couple of years, have a hot topics and stuff like that, and just have questions go one time.
Put them on the referendum.
Put them out there, yeah. Any final comments we got here for Ferrari guy? Ferrari?
That's actually not a very bad idea.
I got some of them. I got some. You know, what I mean, I went to public school, but I got some good ideas. any final comments? BT West over there. You? Any final comments?
No, man, I'm good, man. Just look forward to the next conversation to tackle the other topics there. It's a lot to talk about. There's a lot
we
going
could
on.
be here for a while. We
didn't even touch education, none of that stuff.
Yeah, we're giving an easy blight.
Easy first go around.
Any final comments for you? I know you might want to plug your group or anything you want to share.
No, I want to thank you guys for having me on, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Next time we could do it around domino table or something like that.
Oh, Zane.
But,
D-Bert shaking his head.
Around the Luda board at office, huh?
yeah. You might have a chance winning if it's dominoes, But.
Oh, you're a Luda guy?
But,
You're a Luda guy, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
They got a Luda board out there that they run that hot, man.
Yeah. Okay.
But, thank you for having me on, and happy to come back anytime. And like I said, I think watch this space. We're going to do things a little different.
And where can they find you guys? Or socials? Or is there a number they can call, or email, websites, anything like that?
Yeah, the progressives.ky. We're on all the platforms. We were congratulated when we got on to TikTok.
You're on TikTok now?
Yeah. We're on TikTok.
Y'all serious, man? Y'all trying to go for the young vote for real, man? I remember when y'all had the young progressives, and then there was a young UDP. You might need to refresh that.
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
Certainly do. Got plans.
Well, thank you for braving the call and joining us. On behalf of Chris, my boy BT West over there. Y'all, someone called you Blinks the other day. I heard that in a minute. I remember that. They say, I saw you in the park, you in Blinks. Shout out to Tony as well for holding on the backstage for us. We always appreciate Tony. Shout out to Keisha, who's off celebrating, living her best life. You know what it is. You listen to the Link Up podcast. You know where to find us. Find us at @PodLinkUp on IG, socials. Message Chris if you have any complaints. That's the person that you need to speak to. So if you've been listening in the car, you've been doing anything in traffic, you home cleaning, you're at work, not paying attention, not doing your job, and instead you're listening to us and watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you.
They're going to be pumping water and listen to this.
Shout out to the first time listeners, last time listeners. We hope you enjoy this as much as we enjoy making this for you. Keep us in your thoughts and prayers. Keep spreading this thing around, and hopefully we'll be back together at the same time, same place next week. You've been listening to The Link Up.